The work of the true mystic is to remind us that the mind and body are not our true identity, and that what we consider to be our real home, this world we consider to be our real home, is just part of an immense journey. It is part of a great play that we are participating in. Do not confuse your real self with either mind, body, or this great play that you are part of. Your identity is something else. Your identity is something more immense. Do not dissipate your energy by thinking that bliss is possible when you think yourself to be mind and body. No, that very idea leads you to frustration. That very idea takes you away from your real bliss, your real potential in life. And Guru Nanak says this in a beautiful, very Vedantic way. He says, owing to the ignorance of the rope appears to be a snake. Owing to ignorance of the true self, the transient state arises of the individualized, limited, phenomenal aspect of the self. So we are under a great illusion. We mistake the false, thinking it is the true. We mistake the transient, the passing, to be the true self. All that brings about a distortion in the way we look at the world. And it is the very basis of the spiritual religion. You see, when a mystic like Guru Nanak Ji talks, his words encompass a very large aspect of existence. He talks not only in terms of having belief and so on and so forth. No. He talks in terms of strengthening us at a very psycho-spiritual level, of transforming our very psychology of the way we look at the world. And he says that at a psychological level, we have mistaken the rope to be a snake. It's simply that our way of perception itself is wrong. And when the way of perception itself is wrong, then how can you possibly move towards higher mystical truth? How can you move towards a situation where you can take shelter in the greater? You don't even know how to look at things with a proper eye. How will you put your energy into meditation? But when you look with the right eye, then spontaneously a great joy will arise, a great bliss will arise in life. That is all that is fundamentally needed. Do not mistake the rope to be a snake. Do not mistake this transient state of existence to be the true self. The true self is all consciousness. The true self is all blissfulness. The true self is all truth. It is multidimensional. And that is your reality. And that is the whole wonder of the mystic search. Guru Nanak is pointing towards a larger reality. A reality where we are crystal clear, we are pure mirrors of the divine. We are pure reflections of the greater. The self is made in the image of the greater, and that is the wonder of it. And knowing this reality is when you're able to move towards a true self-confidence in life. Knowing that you're part of something greater, knowing that you're part of an immensity of blissfulness. You can choose to be that blissfulness, but provided you remember it. Provided you do not mistake the transient and the passing to be your true self. That way you'll always be frustrated. You can look at people, they're always frustrated, no matter what their material accomplishments in life. That's why they say that look of bliss, the look of peace on the spiritually realized person puts the expression of the greatest king and the greatest emperor to shame. Because it arises out of realizing your inner treasure. It is not dependent on any outer position of wealth, any outer position of power, any outer accomplishment which you have achieved in the world. No, eventually all that dissipates our energy. All that takes us away from realizing our ultimate limit. And the ultimate limit is actually limitlessness. It is great ecstasy. It is being so satiated with the joy of life itself, knowing that you are far larger than you ever thought you were in your essential self-nature, that suddenly the whole of existence looks like it is comprised of divine love, divine consciousness, divine beauty, and so on. And that is what the core of the mystic message is. To look at life in that way, to look at life in that perspective, but it all comes about through understanding that the same energy that we have invested in looking at the mind-body as our true self should now be invested in looking and understanding that the mind-body is not our true self. In understanding that a far greater energy is pulsating within us, a far greater potential for bliss is pulsating within us, and that once we accept that larger reality in our lives is when it becomes more and more available to us at an intuitive level to guide us. Hence, Guru Nanak is telling us to remove our cultivated patterns of identification, our cultivated patterns of looking at thought, and that is why he was so influential in his own life. He did away with the entire question that was plaguing the religion of that time. The question of who is higher, who is lower, the question of what is absolute truth, what is relative truth, the question of fanaticism, the question of freedom, inner freedom. You see, he was a breath of fresh air. Religion was undergoing a great churning in his time. On the one hand, was the oppression of some of the older religions, stuck in their mire of entrenched beliefs, hierarchies, and so on. And on the other hand, there was no living example of a person who walked the talk, so to speak. And Guru Nanak was able to accomplish something utterly unique. Not only did he simplify the highest truths, but he walked his own talk and he appealed to all sorts of people, from common people, people who could gather around and listen to his very musical, very magnetic messages, as well as appeal to those who had explored higher mysticism. So Guru Nanak is an aberration. He appeals to the most common as well as the most exalted. And for that he has an unparalleled recognition, an unparalleled place in the world of mystics. And we have to remember that Guru Nanak Ji is relatively recent. He is not that ancient. Yet he is counted amongst the greatest. No matter how ancient, no matter how old, he's always counted in the pantheon of all-time greatest mystics. And rightly so, because the spontaneous expression of truth which comes out of him not only encompasses the entire past, the beauty of the ancient teachings, but it comes as if it is entirely fresh. It takes away that complexity and makes available the essence of the old message. It makes available the essence of all that human civilization has gathered and learned through the Buddhas, through the Rishis, through the Sufis, through the Tirthankars, and gives it to us as if it is fresh water, as if it is simple, fresh water from the Ganges, cleansing, purifying, deconditioning us from this old vision of what is right and what is wrong, and allowing us to go to our deepest selves, to go into the very core of our beings, where dwells the eye of wisdom, the eye of mystical wisdom, which knows what consciousness is, which intuits what existence is, which realizes love to be the highest bridge between man and the divine, and really makes this loving consciousness the ultimate foundation for our very lives to move on towards a more successful, organic way of living, where there is a unity between what we think and what we do, a unity between our aspirations and our true spiritual expansion in life, a unity between the limitlessness that we have in our potential and the actions of our lives itself.